Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So it's kind of getting to that romantic time of year, and I really wanted Jamie to get one of the Hallmark or Lifetime movies, but he said he tried. I think he was just pulling my chain. But we got something even better. We're going to be talking next week, American Wedding, a very worthy sequel in the American Pie franchise. You see some characters kind of taking on a different role, just like sequels do. Stifler's a bit different in this one, just like he really jumps the shark in American Reunion, but that's still a lot of fun. And for it, I talked to an actor. His scene got cut from American Wedding, but he had some great memories from it. So he was able to do a lot of improv, which it's in his background. We talk about improv a lot. And that is actor Patrick Gallo. Patrick is a guy, right before I even talked to him, through text message and just reading his IMDb profile, which you should check out, I was laughing. Before we even started chatting that night. Just talking about his career, and he was so humble, and he loves what he does, and that's why he's going to be doing it forever, because he's so passionate about it, and he was able to find a different passion when he got a little bit sour the way filmmaking is in LA. He went to editing, and he fell in love with that, so it was pretty fascinating hearing about that, and I loved his journey, because he's going to a community college, and then somebody believed in him. His teacher, his drama teacher, believed in him, and that was huge, especially at such a young age. And then we talked about, him going to school in New York, writing shorts, being in plays, cattle call auditions, how he got out to LA, with him and his buddy at the time that had a comedy duo. They did stand up, and really. Man, lots of fun. And then Budweiser commercial. If you remember the What's Up commercials, he was one of the main guys in the How You Doing commercial. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? The follow-up, because Sopranos is so huge. And the big moment for him, obviously so many moments in his career that we talk about. He cares about all of them, but his role as Mario Puzo on Paramount Plus's The Offer is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's worth it. So good. Great casting for everybody. But man, Patrick nailed the role. So do me a favor before I start the interview. Please follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. Subscribe. Share with your friends, your neighbors, ex-girlfriends, ex-husband, whoever. Just tell anyone and everyone about us. And then also YouTube. Find us on YouTube. Please subscribe there too. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers. It gives us some perks or something. I don't know any of it. But what I do know is strap in for an amazing interview. I had a lot of fun, lots of laughs with actor Patrick Gallo. Cool, man. Yeah. So Patrick, what I like to do with these is, every story has a beginning, and I love finding out how people started and then their journey along the way. So you grew up in Buffalo. So growing up, at what point did you have some sort of inkling that you're like, I want to be creative, I want to get on stage or screen? How did that all begin?
That's a lovely question. I love that. I think it probably I would have to say, I don't remember it being sort of, I don't remember it existing within myself like before I started doing plays, but I think it was in my personality. Like my wife, I've known since kindergarten, and she always, and she would always, I kind of check in with her and be like, what was I like? What kind of a person? But because I just don't remember. But I think, I would definitely say that there were little kind of dances I had with theater throughout my, life in 6th grade and 7th, doing plays, and none of it was, it was just part of the year. But I think in high school when I did cabaret at my high school, and I think my interest in things other than the show, like I was in it, but I was also interested in, suddenly I was like, I love this whole wardrobe situation, and I love, this organization of the scenes, and so I started thinking about, I was like, I'd like to, the whole directing and wardrobe, and it started to really wash over me during that show, that I loved to just be in the environment and be around, a stage, and furniture and wardrobe and, this kind of magical world. And it was that show that I did that after high school, I went on to study acting. I went to community college and from there it went on. So, yeah. So, short answer, cabaret.
Cabaret was the seminal moment for Patrick. But no, it's always, you always wonder, like, when it comes to something like that, and it's usually school plays, that's the first outlet for people to give that shot. But yeah, that's so cool. So from there you go to, like, in Buffalo Community College, whatever the county is, I'm sure, right up there?
Erie County, yeah, Erie Community College.
I got married in Canada. Me and my wife did me and her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got married in Niagara Falls. Just me and her.
Okay. Oh, a classic.
Yeah.
That's
no big
classic.
wedding, just me and her getting married by some guy that I found on the internet that was asked if he could wear a kilt. And then we said, I don't know. Maybe you go no kilt. But no, Buffalo's awesome. Like, that whole area, like, love that part of the state. But no, so from there, so when did you feel, when you're at community college, you're like, okay, this is good? Because I'm sure you were doing plays there, right?
No, I was studying acting there,
Okay.
and then I was just kind of in school, and really wasn't my thing. So I ended up sort of failing out of Erie Community College, I would say. I skipped my exams because I had an opportunity to go to New York City with my friend, and that always was the most important thing to do, and it didn't really matter. I wanted to be in the city. So, but my acting teacher there, after I kind of failed out, I guess, said, come to the back door on Thursdays, and I still want you in my class. And so I got to continue going by sneaking in and studying, with my acting teacher at the time. So that was cool, it was like it was still happening, and I was slowly becoming more and more intrigued and interested, and I felt very at home. When I was in in that environment, working on text and, exploring plays and musicals and just being in a theater. It was like, and that was it. And then I auditioned for school in New York, and which I auditioned in Toronto, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For school in New York. And then I moved to New York City when I was 19.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's got to show that obviously you have something at that point that you're done with school. You flunk your exams. I did the same thing when I was at county college. I played golf, and I just went and played golf instead of taking my exams. They used to write checks, and you can go to any course like in Central Jersey where I'm from. So I used to be like, once I go to class, I'll just go play for free. So I did that for only 6 months, and then but no, that's cool that happens, and the teacher's still like, hey, you know what? Come to the back door. That's going to show you have something.
It definitely said something to me. I mean, I definitely was so green at that time. But yeah, I was definitely still passionate, But yeah, she saw something in me and didn't want me to not be in the class. And so that was like a really encouraging moment. And, at that age, you take those moments and you go, oh my God, like you said, oh, maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something special. You don't know why or what, but yeah, so that was it. And then I moved to New York City, and and that was it.
Wow. So New York City, what was that like? Because I obviously visited there, but living there at the age of 19 must have been pretty wild.
Oh my God, it was a dream. The easiest way to put it is, I mean, here I was in Buffalo all those years. And the only New York City that I really knew before I ended up going there, but the New York City that I really knew was Woody Allen's New York City.
Yeah.
And I kind of lived in New York City through his films. And that was the New York, it was that music and those shots of the city and those feelings that he was able to sort of, create inside of those films that really, really, really gave you a taste of a version of New York City. And when I moved there, it was like I was in my own little personal Woody Allen film. I mean, it was amazing. I moved to the Upper West Side, and it was just unbelievable. I was 19. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what. I knew that I lived in New York City, and that was just overwhelming to me in the most unbelievable way. I mean, I had this, room in this old hotel that the school put me in, and it was overlooking Broadway, and it was on the 8th floor, and it was like literally would just stand in awe, whether I was looking out my window or standing on the corner. I thought, I'm a part of this city now. I'm a part of it. And it was, oh my God, the most exciting, and I didn't know who I was. So it was like, you're meeting new people, you're performing, you're in school, you're learning, you're in the city. Every day you get up, you're in the city. And your morning starts there and your night ends there. I mean, that was like, an incredible and inspiring and exciting time for sure. I feel very lucky to have lived in New York at that time.
And then how long was school there? Was it like a full 4 years?
No, it was 2 years. It was a 2-year, conservatory. It was 2 years. I loved it. I loved it all. And then from there, I just started, going out into the world, writing stuff, and I was starting to sort of find myself, I guess, in certain ways, at however much you find at that time.
Did you stick in the city? Did you stay in the city afterwards?
I stayed in the city. I left for like 8 months because I was doing some children's theater tours.
Nice.
So we were out on the road and, just kind of driving in a van to all these different cities all across the country and performing in theaters and school cafeterias. And
that's cool, man.
Yeah. So I did that for a while. But I was still in the city. Then I came back. And just continued to work, continued to do all work that I created for myself, working and writing plays with friends and, doing other table reads and other plays, stuff like that.
That's what it is in the beginning. And like, you see it, obviously it happens, it's happened forever, but you have like a collective mind. I think that's why you said like you felt comfortable, you felt at home when you were at Erie Community College in the acting class. Because you're with so many people that it's not the easiest thing. Like every time I talk to any actors, it's like, you're not getting this job because you're like, man, I'm just going to act. That's it. It's easy. That's what I'm going to do. It's a hard thing because there's so much emotion involved because you have to show emotion and the roller coaster of the job that itself. So you connect obviously with people at the school. You're writing plays. Are you auditioning? Are you doing any plays like off Broadway or on Broadway?
Sure. Oh yeah, auditioning, cattle calls, Actors Equity, 500 in line, reading for multiple casting directors, just doing that whole thing. And, I don't think I ever got a call out of any of those. But once again, these are the things that like I can say that I experienced as an actor, that I lived in those times, that we would look through backstage. And I think eventually I was waiting and waiting, you kind of play this game of waiting. And then I just kind of got into the whole rhythm of what am I waiting for? I just need to put myself to work. I'm doing no justice. And so that's when I started writing and working, with a friend of mine at the time. We started writing a lot of things together and we'd, direct plays. And so we were always working, and so auditioning for stuff if we were able to at that point. I wasn't union, I wasn't anything in that way. So when those opportunities would come along, it was great. But if they didn't come along, I was so wrapped up in performing all over the city in different clubs, and we're doing stand up and we were doing plays.
Stand up? I could see you doing stand up.
Yeah, we were a comedy duo. Yeah. We did that for like 7 years. And got featured on Comedy Central and
what?
Yeah, it was
Did you guys have like a shtick?
Yeah, it was like we were off Broadway for a long time. Yeah. Then we brought it out to LA and we did a run out in LA.
That's cool.
Some of the greatest creative, moments of my life working with my partner at the time, and it was sort of a surrealist vaudeville thing that we did, and we did all these wonderful bits and short films and did this whole multimedia show, music, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was the best. I mean, that was like, complete freedom, you know what I mean? And so, and then, we got into that. And so it was like, I just got on this path of like, look, man, you can wait around for other people to hire you, or you can go and work and create and be a real artist. Like, really, if you want to be looked at as an artist, you gotta go make art. You know what I mean? You can't do it by booking a couple commercials. You know what I mean? Like, it was a deeper thing for me. You know, and the things that I guess I needed and the labels I wanted around me, you know, were a part of that fuel to kind of like be out there. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Did you do any improv in the city? I can see you doing that. I can just see from your
tons of
like
it.
no improv.
I taught it, did it.
Nice.
Yeah. I taught it for a summer. I don't remember when it was. It was in the summer. Was it summer? I don't know. But I taught it for a couple of months at the public school up on the Upper West Side. Worked at another company that used to do improv and teach like, you know, these sort of Fortune 500 companies and
Nice.
teach them improv so they would communicate better. And abused children. There was a whole program we did with abused children that would come and we would teach them. So yes, doctors for bedside manner. We would go to hospitals and like run improvs with surgeons and stuff like that. So
That's pretty wild that they do that.
yeah. It's wild. So always improv. I love improv, and and so much of my work is based on improv, and whatever I write is usually coming out of an improv. You know, so
No, I was just saying,
yeah,
just
you
from
were
watching
right.
The Offer, I don't know, we'll get to that like in a little bit, but
Sure.
just watching your scenes, I'm like, obviously there's a script, but I was like, just the way you're delivering it, or that's how good you are at delivering the lines.
Yeah,
It just seemed like it was such riffing, because you could tell when somebody riffs. That's why I think improv is like such a beautiful thing. Like, I took classes when we lived in Portland, Oregon for a few years. I think it's so cool
Yeah.
because you'll never see it again. Like, what you just saw
Right.
will never be seen again. Obviously, if somebody took the words and put them on paper, you could do it again, but it won't feel the same. It's
Yeah.
such a weird thing. It's like mouth jazz, like Matt Besser of Upper 860 Brigade. He calls it mouth jazz, and that's what it is. It's like,
I love that.
just jamming out.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's musical. It's a song, and it is. It's great. It's never going to happen again, and so you're very in the moment, and that's like a really cool play. I mean, that's I think improv on the larger scale, and you go, in life we attain to be present. Total presence. You know what I mean? It's not before. It's not after. It's right where we are right now. That's the most important thing that's happening. And that's the basis of improv. You're exactly in the moment. And things are coming at you, and you're moving, and you're grooving, and you're figuring it out. It's a really magical craft.
Yeah. No, it's addicting when you do it or listen to it. I love listening to it. So from there, so you're creating, because again, when you're not working, or you, like you said, when you're getting like a few commercials here and there, you're not having anything on tape of you. You're not honing your craft. Obviously, you can do acting classes and everything, but it's actually like going through the actual like act of filming, be behind the camera in front of it. So when was like in your timeline, like when you get like Charmed or ER, is that while you're doing all the things at the same time, or no?
No, those are more sort of probably 8 years into my career at that
Oh,
point.
okay.
And when our show went out to LA, then I stayed out in LA. I'd done a Budweiser commercial, and that was like the first that got me my SAG. That got me paid. That turned into 8 commercial. I mean, it was like I'd never made any money. You know what I mean? I never earned any money as an actor. And so that was like incredible to me at that time. And I have suddenly had all this money coming in off this commercial, which was very, very, very new to me because I had no money. And I was working in restaurants, etc., strip clubs. I even worked in strip clubs. So, and then that was out in LA. So then the Charm, the ER, like that started this other phase of my life, which was living in Los Angeles and kind of going through the business there, which is not how it was in New York, And I enjoyed it, and I kind of embraced it, but it wasn't really like, it never really completely felt like, home to me in the way that New York felt home. And I mean that both with where I lived and also the craft and the environment and the landscape, where it was suddenly I was in rooms auditioning and, pretty boys. And, you kind of were like, oh, these aren't my New York people, man. These guys are, I think they've been doing this for like 3 days. And they're just like, I'm going to go in. I'm going to, there was a different vibe, man, and so, so filmmaking became a little more important to me at that time because I was getting kind of sour on these kind of cheesy shows. And, it wasn't my thing, I realized. I had to do it. And then I was like, this isn't really my vibe,
Yeah.
So I had to find another outlet in LA. And that was harder to do, but I'm always very grateful for it because it was challenging to find things that inspired me. I did a lot of great work out there, and I was very, I had a lot of really good times there, but, it was different. It was very different than the New York life. And
if you ever talked to anybody, I don't know if you talked to anybody that was like older and they say like, oh, back in the day, it was New York. Until like the mid 80s, New York was the place to go because casting would really like sort of not run through there, but they would be like, let's go to New York to get all the actors from Broadway, off Broadway.
Yeah.
That's what they primarily did. And then there was like this switch in the mid 80s that it was like, LA is where to go. You have to go to LA to be, because the Comedy Store was there. Like there were just so many different things out there at that time. But no, I agree. New York has like this mystique to it. And LA just, I don't know. Once you're in LA or you visit LA, you're like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, New York's got this unbelievably mysterious depth, you know what I mean? And it's everywhere. You can't avoid it, But, I love LA. Yeah. So anyway, the ER, the Charmed, ER is a funny story because I still get paid for ER. Meanwhile, everything I did on that show got cut out. It's never aired. I've never aired.
Your role of Rudolph Massey, nothing?
I'm in the credits. I get people that interview me are like, so ER, they mention it. And I'm always like, I didn't even make the cut. Like it never, ever went to air. That all ended up on the floor. So it's very funny to me when people like to pick it up because it's ER. And it's like, you did ER. It's like, I did, but I didn't.
I talked to a woman, just a real quick anecdote. She was in Best of the Best, the Eric Roberts movie. And it was funny. Her role in it was like woman number 1. So I just said to her, because she was like the final girl in Friday the 13th, part 5. So I'm like, oh, I have to mention, because you were, I know it's probably just a little role, but it's one of my favorite movies. And she goes, oh, that's a really rough story. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I was Eric Roberts' girlfriend in the movie. And I shot 7 scenes with Eric. And in my head, I'm like, that's a lot of scenes to be in and to play his girlfriend. And then they looked at the cut and they were like, yeah, I don't think he needs a girlfriend. And they cut her out of the whole movie. And they didn't tell her, and she went to the premiere.
Oh yeah, I've been in a similar situation where that happened too. Yeah, that sucks that they didn't tell her.
Yeah.
To the premiere. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Hey, before I forget, so when you go out with the comedy team, you and your buddy go out to LA, how did like the Budweiser, like obviously you're out there, you're like, hey, why don't I audition like I did in New York? So the Budweiser commercial, was that like one of the, you said there was 8 of them?
Well, it ended up being that over like a 2-year period. Wow. We just kept getting called to shoot more and more. Yeah, it was amazing.
Which ones were they? They weren't the What's Up commercials. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they were the same series, but they were the How You Doing commercials. The Sopranos, Alan Coulter, who directed The Sopranos, we did the whole thing of how you doing, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing, how you. It's the first beer commercial ever shown on the Academy Awards.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And commercials paid good back then.
Yes, those were the days when it actually paid really, really well. And I had no idea. And then I just was like, I moved to LA, and then I was like, I just get stacks of chat. I was like, what is happening? It was unbelievable. So that was, and it got me my union membership. And it was Alan Coulter who cast me in it, who directed it, who I went to the Mats with. I was up to play Jackie Jr. on The Sopranos. And I went, I was in a lot of callbacks with the folks over at HBO. And so the next time I saw Alan was there. And he said, oh my God. And we had kind of known each other because they were wanting, I was almost up to play that role. So it was one of those things where you went, oh my God, geez, now he knows me. Like, I hope I can make this work. This would be amazing. And, and I did, I got it. And that was it. And we shot it. Shot many of them.
That's awesome. So when did you move back? So you moved back to, after you were in LA for a while, you went back to the city?
Yeah, I was in LA for like 8 years. I did Mamma Mia in Vegas
Nice.
also for a year. So I guess I was there for like, I guess 8 years, but 1 year I was in Vegas. I married my wife.
When did you guys reconnect, or were you always connected?
We were always connected, but we didn't fall in love until our mid-30s.
Look at that, man. Me and my wife went to high school together. She was a year
shit.
older, and we didn't really talk in high school. I ran into her in Atlantic City at 4:00 in the morning at a slot machine.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's cool.
Wild.
You guys connected after all those years. So when you're talking to her about like, hey, what was I like 30 years ago? Because you knew her in kindergarten. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, it's wild. And so we got married, and then a year later we had Luca.
Nice.
And then that was sort of like I had already been a few years into I got to get out of LA and I got to go back to New York. Like I was already ready to go back to the East Coast, go home. And as soon as we had the kid, it was like literally 1 year later, I said, I don't want to raise him here. I want to raise him on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So we turned 1, and shortly after that, we all left and moved to Brooklyn, back to Brooklyn.
Nice. So what's the first thing you do when you get back? Is it just going right back to plays, or is it because you were getting work when you were out there? Now, obviously, like you said, not something that filled your cup or wasn't like soul fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, it was so, the business out there was kind of, like I said, soured me. So, I had kind of said, you know what, I love what I do, but I don't like the taste of the industry. And I thought, you know what, I need to do myself a favor and step away. So I stepped away for a year. I told my agents and managers, I said, look, I don't want anything. Don't call me for audition. I'm stepping away. And I started to get intrigued by editing and filmmaking, and that became a very big focus. So I stopped acting for like a year, focused on editing, really, primarily, and found a great love for editing. And then we moved back to New York City, and I still was editing, and I wasn't auditioning yet, but I was like, I'm back, and I'll wait for the feeling. If I feel like I want to do it, I'll do it. If not, I'm very happy editing. Creatively, I'm working on stuff and making films and whatever, doing bits. And then I felt like, okay, you know what? Maybe I felt, the instinct of okay. And I called my managers and I just said, hey, let's see what's going on. I'm ready to go out and see what's up. And that was it. And then I just kind of slowly would, get auditions here and there. And
what made you start editing?
Well, editing was just, I didn't want to, I was stepping away from acting for a while, and I just, I was doing some editing when I was doing Mamma Mia. I had a lot of time, so I was like, you know what, let me write a film and direct it and cut it, so that I've done it all. And I'd made films, and I had done them with my friends, but I had never physically written it entirely. I didn't direct it, I didn't act it, I didn't edit it. And I was like, I'll learn. I have all this time, every day, before a performance, I was like, I should be doing something. Yeah. And so I started doing that. I started teaching myself how to edit during the day. I made like 2 short films in Vegas with members of my cast of Mamma Mia, and I would bring everybody in and we'd shoot films. And then when I got back to LA, I was like, hey, you know what? I don't like the scene. And I got a job editing like short documentaries, and I was having a blast doing it, man. And I love it and do it to this day. I love editing.
That's awesome. I just interviewed an editor like 3 weeks ago. I think it's a fascinating thing because it's so hard. And I think it was like Jerry Seinfeld or Larry David said like the unsung heroes of Seinfeld are the editors. Yeah. Because the cutting is so key for the laughter in that show.
It's a full-blown rewrite. It's the last rewrite of the script. And it's just a really, really, it's like being in the playground and you've just, you've got every single toy you want, and you can and you can use them all. And it's like a constant kind of, just playing. You've got it all. You've got every paint, every brush, every canvas. It's just a very magical form. So I love editing, and that's what I discovered by letting go of that, for that year. And I've always edited ever since.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Yeah. No, I see like the one Ghost Adventures, you did that for a long time. 36 episodes doing that. That's great.
Sure. You better, yeah, good deal, man. Yes. And I love it. I love it. It's great. Super, super, super fun.
Yeah.
And I only do things that are fun. That's another thing I decided a long time ago. I was like, don't do it unless I'm having fun doing it and I love doing it. So I don't ever feel like I've ever worked, really. I've worked a lot of jobs. Trust me, it worked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, that was to maintain doing the fun shit, so.
But I think if you have that fun outlet, like when I'm working during the day as an accountant, it's not like I'm sitting there like, this is awesome. But when you have that outlet of creativity that you can do at the end of the day, it makes the day go a lot better. But that's so cool that you found another passion within your passion. Even though you're soured on one thing, some people usually say, you know what, I'm going back to Pig Knuckle, Arkansas or whatever. Like you hear the stories about actors and actresses all the time. They're like, I did 2 movies and then, I went back home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen, man, I'm very lucky that I found a passion within my passion. Like it's rare to find a passion. It's rare to find another one.
Yeah.
And so that was a really, when I realized I loved editing, I thought, oh my God, this is my safety net. And it wasn't even a safety net, but I was like, this is just the greatest thing in the world. Like, I love doing this. Yeah. So I'll never have to worry about it. I never have to do and it's just a wonderful thing. So yeah, very, very fortunate that I found editing.
And I think the timing that you moved back, I would guess that would be like 2012, 2011, right? You came back to Brooklyn right around then?
Yep.
But I'm just saying the timing of it, because then that's when shows were like, you know what? We can film anywhere. That's when you really had, like, even in Jersey now, they're doing that Netflix studio at the old Air Force Base or whatever it is. Fort Monmouth down the shore. But that's going to be like huge for people that live in this area that are actors,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mentioned that because of Boardwalk Empire.
Yes.
And Taxi Brooklyn. So all within those few years, there's shows that are local that you're like, hey, you know what? I can do, especially you have that editing there as well. You still have all these shows that come up. So like Boardwalk Empire must have been so cool, especially like auditioning for HBO, like in the past, like you said for Sopranos.
Oh my God. Yes. And that was cool. Yeah. And I'd gone into audition for HBO for Boardwalk. Probably 5-6 times before I ended up, doing the role that I got. But that's how it works. Casting likes you, but they find that role that works.
Yeah.
And that was Boardwalk, and that was great too. Yeah, loved shooting that. Love it.
Yeah, and then it's all about like momentum, and like even like you have Taxi Brooklyn, Unforgettable, and there's all these things like, and then you have The Deuce, and When They See Us, which was like a big show, and then The Irishman, which must have been like.
Yeah, but it was great. It was amazing. Unbelievable. What can you say? I work with Scorsese. That's enough. And then they put me at a table with De Niro and Pacino. It was like, the dream. It was an absolute dream.
How do you even like when they call and they say you got it, or how'd that work out? Did they tell you in the audition room, or was it a call afterwards?
No. It was months and months of film. Sometimes it takes months.
Yeah.
To even, if they even put you on hold. You know what I mean? Like film takes a lot longer. So that took many months. I was like, I knew casting, and I knew who I was reading for. And I knew it was a Scorsese movie. So, of course my feeling was like, oh my God, you got to do this really well, because this isn't going to come around again. You're not going to get it. So, after that, I remember I left the office where I read, and I was like, oh my God, you blew it. You fucking blew it. Like, I did not feel good at all. I remember sitting on a curb, and I was like, that was it. That's it. You had a chance, and it's not going to happen. Like, even if you didn't blow it, you didn't do well enough to be sifted out of the, very big handful of Italian-American men that they brought in, actors that they brought in to read this role. Like, you're not going to stand out. You're not that guy. So I thought I lost it. And then a couple of months later, I found out that I got it. I was like, I can't believe it. And it was a dream come true. A fucking dream come true.
Especially the waiting for a few months. That's pretty wild. I'm sure that happens for a ton of roles, because they don't know when they're going to shoot. Like you said, they don't know when they're going to shoot that scene. So why tell this guy, now? But, wow.
Yeah.
The waiting for that.
And it was an amazing, thanks, man. It was a great, it was just one of those rare things where you're just kind of like, wow, it was pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I
would say the next thing we're going to talk about is probably the most amazing thing, because obviously, like, you're playing a person in the offer in Mario Puzo.
Yeah.
That is quite the character, which I never really knew that. Like, so how do you prepare for something like that? I'm sure there's some kind of archive footage of him, or like audio of him somewhere.
Footage. There's he was a soft-spoken guy, super funny guy, and I've said this in other interviews, and it was as simple as, making this decision to either do an impression or an interpretation. I was not going to try to do an impression of Mario Puzo. It's not what I do, and that wasn't what I was. I wanted more time to kind of like hone in on his spirit. And I thought, there are enough similarities between Patrick and Puzo, just in the way of like caring about art and also the insecurities of like being looked at and valued, and when you read about him, and he did have those feelings about things. He never wanted to do the mainstream. You know what I mean? It was, and I've always been that way too, where it's like, I'd rather people not understand me than understand me. And so those similarities were there, and I thought, okay, well, if we have those things in common, I'm gonna just try to hone in on his spirit. And whenever I do this, whenever we work, that's what I'm gonna try to put out on film. And that was what I did. So, it was, he wasn't, like I said, it wasn't an impression. It was an interpretation. He was, like I said, a soft-spoken guy.
Yeah.
He was a man of very few words. And when he said something, it brought the room down, in 3 words. You know what I mean? Like, he was that guy. And he loved his family, and he loved people. But he wasn't, I think, as gregarious as I might have come off. But like I said, it was sort of me, Patrick Gallo, kind of trying to, sort of hold his spirit out in center stage as best as I could, if I did.
So. What was the audition process for that like? Was that a long process?
No. It was a couple of weeks. It was like a couple of weeks. I remember I did it. I read for it. I didn't really know what it was. I could tell after I read the script. I didn't know what it was. Wasn't invested in it necessarily, because you give a lot of auditions and you don't really put too much, 99.9% of them, you do them and then you never hear about them again. So it doesn't really... and then I got a little word that they were interested, but they wanted me to read again, and I was like, oh, now I'm invested, because that's unbelievable. And then Dexter Fletcher wanted to get on the horn with me, and we Zoomed. He was in London, who was our director, and that was super cool to meet him, and we hit it off, and he kind of gave me a couple of little bits and pieces for the network. For the studio to kind of say, like, this is what we need to give them to, like, bring you right to the finish line.
Wow.
And then I read again, and we sent it in, and another couple of weeks went by, and I heard nothing, and I was like, oh my! Now I was invested. I was like, what the fuck, man? What's happening? And then finally, I got the word that I got it, and 2 days later, I was on a plane. I was in LA, and I was in a warehouse with Dexter and Miles and Danny and Juno, and we were all fucking, rehearsing and playing and loving each other, finding all the love. It was great. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
You and Dan had some great scenes together.
Yeah.
Because he's the kind of, you look at a lot of his roles, he's very outgoing. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
It almost seems like somebody's like off camera, like, okay, tone it. Because that's who Coppola was, even interviews, no matter when you see him. I remember watching one on Howard. I think that was the first time I was listening to Stern, and he was talking to Coppola. That's the first time I ever knew anything about any of this, like that there was like a thing to get this movie made. I had no clue. You're just saying like, oh my God, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah. There's my baby girl. Baby.
Nice.
Baby, you want to meet Doug? Come here.
Look at that, a dog guest. I love it.
She's the baby.
Look at that.
You love it, girl.
The best.
So yeah, dude. So it was pretty great.
So I always like to ask people, so obviously we can't cover everything that you worked on. So what are some things that you'd love to do? Like, is there another type of role or a genre that you'd like, if I gave you a blank check, or that you'd be like, all right, I would do this?
Not really. I wrote a film that I'm trying to get together right now that we're going to shoot. And, I got to tell you, Doug, I'm very much in the moment. Like, I'm very, very, very present. Like, I really don't think outside of right this very second.
Improv.
So, yeah, exactly. It's improv. So, I don't know, man. Like, shit just kind of like will come around, and if I'm into it, I'm down. And if, I'm not. I got an audition yesterday. I was like, this doesn't interest me at all. No, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And it's like, it's not a harsh thing. It's just like you get to this point, I think, where you just go, no, I just want to do stuff that I want to do, and I don't know what that is. It comes, and then I go, oh yeah, that's fun. I'll do that. So it just kind of comes. I never know when it's going to happen, and I don't think about it that much.
Yeah. No, it's good to be present, for sure.
Yeah.
I could just see it, like, just from talking to you, and just your man, I could see you be like the buddy on like a movie. Like, you could be that.
You're a great buddy, right?
Yeah, I think you're
a good buddy.
And you're a funny guy. So I can see that. I can totally see that. So, like, across your career, obviously, I haven't seen American Wedding in a long time, and we always cover sequels. Yeah. What was it like being in that movie? I know you just had a small role.
Yeah, it was great. I had a blast shooting that. It was all improv, Jacob Dylan directed it, and it was all improv. What's her name? Alyson Hannigan?
Oh, yeah.
Is that her name? Al, she was a sweetheart.
Yep.
And it was great. It was all improv, man. It was super fun. I had a blast that day. I loved it. All on Steadicam, and it was really a fun shoot. Yeah. That was the one where I was shooting another movie in Florida, and it premiered, it opened up in movie theaters, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get the entire cast and crew to go to the movies tonight to see American Wedding. I'm in it. I felt like the biggest movie star in the world. And I was like, I'm in the movie, and I haven't seen it. It's going to be amazing. And we all go to the movies, and their only shot of me is in a dissolve in a montage. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I got up and laughed. I was like, I wouldn't have come seeing this movie if I wasn't in it. And now I invited everyone here to see it, and I'm in a dissolve. I couldn't believe it. I was totally devastated. But I love the story. It's a great story.
It is a good story. No, my buddy, this guy I'm helping write a book, Larry Henkin, he's a big-time character actor. So I helped him put together his memoirs, and one of his stories is about being in, well, not really in, Pretty Woman. He was the landlord to Julia Roberts. So he filmed all these scenes and his recollection, because he had like this moment years before with Gary Marshall. Larry was rehearsing with Penny on Laverne and Shirley, and Gary didn't like that Larry was like holding Laverne like in this scene. He like really didn't like it. So anyway, years later, Larry goes to the premiere, and all he sees is the back of his head. In the opening scene, it's like the camera, like probably a Steadicam shot. They go into like the stairwell, and he's like getting ready to shout something, and they cut before you even hear his voice, and you just see the back of his head.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough.
But what's cool about it, obviously, it's not there, but obviously any residuals like come in, and also you have like the experience of like being on set for the movie. I know it's terrible for that to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, the experience of doing it was great. That's always the best part of it. You know what I mean? So, I didn't feel like I'm looking back on it, and I'm sure back then I was really harsh about it and really mad and dramatic and upset about it. Now I think I like the story better than being in the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it worked out for me either way.
Yeah. So that's cool. You're writing a movie, and you're like, is it something that you like set in Brooklyn?
Short film. Yeah, just short film that I wrote and I love, and just kind of want to do it the right way. So I'm kind of in the midst of getting it budgeted and figuring it out. And, that's my sort of the next thing. But once again, like I said, that's happening. And then, you never kind of know what rolls your way. I'm getting ready to shoot something in Los Angeles. I cannot mention it.
That's cool.
But I will say that you've mentioned someone involved in it already.
Okay. 2 questions I love asking people. One is really interesting because, again, you're super present. So, like, along the way when you're acting and you're, like, doing your first job, whether it be, like, even, like, something like Charmed or ER when you're on set, along the way, did you take any mementos, like scripts or, like, wardrobe? No. You don't have any of that?
No, I'm terrible that way, man. I don't keep anything. I have literally walked out of apartments with all my belongings and never returned. Yeah. So some deep-rooted thing is going on there. But no, I'm not a real, I guess I have, somewhere in a box I have like Polaroids, like wardrobe Polaroids from like almost every show I've done.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's a cool thing, and I don't know where the hell it is, but it's in a box. And I have my chair from The Offer.
You got to keep that. That's great.
Other than that, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I have some cool stuff, but it's more recent. Like, it's nothing. I'm not like that guy. You know what I mean? Where I'm, I wish I was. I have one. I had a great jacket for The Irishman, like a sweatshirt, but I gave it to Danny Fogler, who played Coppola in the movie. I passed it on to him.
You're very nice.
He loved it. I was like, I'm passing it on to you. So, yeah, I don't really have that much. No.
That's like good vibes. Somebody's one day you're going to be on a movie or a show, and you're going to see somebody with a cool jacket, and you're going to be like, oh, my God, I love that. And then they're going to be like, you know what?
Take it. Yeah.
Peter Jason did that. The character actor Peter Jason, he was talking about like Carpenter would always give like really cool gifts at the end. So he was like Carpenter's right-hand man, whether it be a small role, a larger role in the movie. So he did for, not Serpent in the Rainbow. God, what's the vampire movie that he did, Carpenter? I should know this. I feel like a dummy.
I can't think of it.
Oh, man. Whatever it was. At the end of the... whatever. So anyway, so he had the jacket on, and he's wearing the jacket, and he's like plays tennis, and some like tennis pro, like a professional tennis player was like, oh my God, that's such a cool, Prince of Darkness. So somebody sees the jacket, and they think it's a reference to, not to Prince, but to somebody, and Peter Jason's like, yeah, you can have it. Like, here, it's yours. Like this, like one, he's like, I have a ton of this stuff. I don't need it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And last question, Patrick, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
If you didn't do this, if you didn't find that creative bug when you were in middle school, was there anything, did you have any other career path that you think that you would ended up doing?
I think at one point, funny as it is, I wanted to like be like a cop in New York City.
Wow.
I remember feeling like, and I just wanted to get to New York, but I remember thinking like, that'd be cool to be a cop in New York. You know, it just seemed like yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd be doing. God, Jesus Christ. I
gotta say, that's why you're doing it. I gotta tell you, most of the time I ask people that most of the time I never ask somebody that. I'm like, you know what? I was gonna do blank. It's usually that they're like, I really don't know, which shows you, because you have to have that drive. You're never gonna make it like we talked about in the beginning. It's not like you're ever gonna wake up and be like, you know what? I want to work in the movies. That's it.
Yeah. I don't think I ever, it was never that. It was always that I just wanted to be part of the art scene, you know?
Yeah.
That was it, you know? And I think probably still, you know, to a certain extent. But I just think, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. And
that's why you're here. And I have to mention, I
Maybe I own like a coffee shop or something.
You own a coffee shop, yeah.
I could see me owning a coffee shop with like sandwiches.
Gallows.
Really
Gallows. I don't know. Is there another food or something that starts with G?
Gallows.
Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah. This is who owns it. This is what you get here. Come on in. And if you want something special, like I'll make it. Come back in the kitchen and make it with me.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Oh, bring you right in the kitchen. Yeah, maybe I would have owned like a cafe.
Yeah.
That's it. Maybe I would have owned a cafe.
Come in here. You want to work the spatula? Come on.
Yeah. Flip those eggs for me.
I gotta say before we end this, your mini bio on IMDb is the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
You didn't write that? Somebody else wrote that?
No. What does the name say?
I just says like mini biography. Yeah, Dr. Sharon Leventhal.
Yeah, that's just a made-up name. I made that name up. That was the name I wanted to name my dog before we got our dog. And my wife and people were like, no, you're not naming the dog Dr. Sharon Leventhal. It's
pretty funny.
I was like, all right, there you go, my bio. How about that?
I didn't even notice that until I like fully clicked on it, and then you see it. But I love that it's like all these things about you, and then his favorite sandwich is chicken salad.
I mean, it's important. I mean, it's really an important thing. I don't see why we wouldn't all tell each other what our favorite sandwiches are.
That's true. And that's what I guess, like, he has done improv or comedy or something like that. No serious, dramatic person's going to think that. But, man, Patrick, this has been awesome, man. I'm really happy we connected.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for the time, man. I appreciate it, too.
Man, Patrick is the guy that, he'll give you the shirt off his back. And he did that, in a sense, because he gave away his jacket that he got on Irishman, which is so kind. And, man, so many great stories from his career, and it's still going. I love talking to Patrick. Improv, man, I could really see him. Like, when I said that to him, I meant that from the bottom of my heart. I could see him be that buddy in a movie. Like, I would kill to be a buddy in some of my favorite movies. The buddies are so great. Like, what's his name? Tyler Labine in, The Greatest Orgy with Jason Sudeikis. Perfect buddy in that movie. Just so many people nail it, and I think he could too. But he has so many irons in the fire because he loves editing. He wants to make his own stuff. And then every so often, he's auditioning, and like he talked about, he's got something in the works. So I'll make sure to put his Instagram in the episode notes so you can give him a follow. So when he posts about that, you could be like, oh, yeah. But yeah, so thanks, Patrick. And now your homework, American Wedding. Jim is getting married. Oh my gosh, this is going to be something. And we're all invited. Well, you're invited. And then me and Jamie are going to talk about it. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night, guys.